So at 18, all of this just has compounded and I'm feeling like I want to kill myself. I have two options. I'm like, okay, I can either like pour myself into the church and just like ignore the fact that I am queer, or I can once and for all admit it to myself and do something about it and see what happens. I was petrified. If anybody found out, my life would be over. My family would forsake me. My church friends would disown me. I would have to stop teaching Sunday school. I would, all of these things that were my life would essentially disappear. So I logged on anonymously to Craigslist and I met up with a guy back when you could do personal ads on Craigslist. And it was dangerous. I went to a stranger's house with the expectation that I was coming over for a sexual experience. And I had no idea who this person was. So I show up and they invite me into their home. And I see on their walls and on their bookshelves the same things that were in my home. There was like crosses as decoration, and there were worship books on the bookshelf, and they were like, 7 different translations of the Bible. So like it felt like me and this person were on the same page. We both knew what was happening. So after that experience, it was horrible, by the way, because I didn't know anything. No one had taken the time to, LGBTQ sex education does not exist. So I injured myself. It was painful and layered on top of all of the bullying and the self-consciousness and the fact that I already wanted to kill myself. Having this experience that went so terribly wrong, I was like, well, what the heck? Like, who am I? If this isn't who I am, like, what's happening? So I'm driving back. I actually don't know where I'm driving. And I start weeping as I'm driving. I drove this like pickup truck and had to pull off on the side of the interstate because I'm heaving for breath. And I call my mentor. And at the time, that was the youth pastor at the church that I had attended growing up. And I say to my mentor, I've done something that God will never forgive. So there's no point in living any longer. And my mentor said, listen, if you've ever had a relationship with God, you're going to be just fine. So why don't you go out to the field? And the field was this 20-acre plot of land that the church had bought. They were going to build a new building. Anyway, I went out to this field and he said, throw rocks at God. Just get it all out. Like, tell him how you're feeling. So I went out and I start throwing rocks at God. And I didn't know why. That seemed really silly to me that I would, this peon on earth would be throwing rocks at God, who at that time I believed to be this ultimate superior being. And as I'm throwing rocks at God, my shoulder is hurting. I'm throwing rocks so long. And I have no more tears left in my eyes. I'm exhausted. And I just collapse. And I start laughing. I think that maybe it was my body's defense mechanism. I start laughing. And for the very first time, I say 2 things to myself. I say them out loud, but I'm in the middle of the forest in rural Alabama, so no one's there to hear. But I say, I'm a homosexual. It's the only word I had for it. And I say, and I don't believe in God. And that was a huge moment for me. Then I started laughing at the fact that I was throwing rocks at something that I didn't really think was there. Now that's unlocked something for me. One, it allowed me to accept myself. But since I had been so indoctrinated, these convictions, this belief system that I had, it's all I knew. My concept of reality was based in conservative Christian thought. So for me to say I don't believe in God, it was the beginning of an undoing that took years. that happened when I was 18. It wasn't until 25 that I stopped going to church, because I felt, even though I didn't really believe, I still felt like something bad would happen if I said it out loud or I told other people. I felt like God still might be there to smite me down, even though I really didn't believe that he existed. That's the power of indoctrination. So going back to my parents, imagining that they've been in this tradition now for going on 70 years, I can empathize. I can say like, well, it makes sense that you're having a really difficult time. So I don't blame you for the way that you believe as much as I blame these systems that condition us, that indoctrinate us, that, give us a very easy pathway to oppression. And you're a victim just like I was.